We're in Air Force car park in the Lake District in Patterdale, and we're just gearing up to go out on a walk up Helvellyn. We're going to kind of walk up the main path and then just do the typical route up to Red Tarn, and then along Striding Edge to the summit, and then down Sorrel Edge and then back home. The geology of the Lake District goes back a really long way, to about 450 or so million years ago, during a period called the Ordovician. And during this time, like where we are now, was the middle of an ocean. And you had a plate subducting underneath another one, right? An oceanic plate subducting underneath a continental plate. And this causes volcanoes in this ancient ocean, like forming these big mountain chains. And as you're walking up Striding Edge, a lot of the rocks underfoot, there'll be ash flow tufts that have been blown out of volcanoes, all of this kind of mad ash just bubbling out and then collapsing and then settling down and forming these really, really tough volcanic rocks. And as you walk up a little bit further, there you have these volcaniclastic sandstones. So that's where you've had sand which has just been blown up, like it exploded out by this volcano, and then settles down with little chunks of molten rock kind of embedded in it. After the end of the dinosaurs, 60 million years ago or so, as the Atlantic was opening and the Alps were forming, this area was then pushed up again, it was uplifted. And all of these volcanic rocks were revealed to the surface again. And then we went through this period of glaciation. And this period of glaciation, it then scoured and carved the Lake District landscape into what we see today. So Zach, you're one of the Felltop assessors. What exactly does that mean?
It's one of those amazing jobs that come along well, not that often really. We're very much a resource for hillgoers to get information out there about what conditions are like in the hills so people can make good decisions. There's kind of three parts to the role really. One is, one of us is out every day throughout the winter, December through till Easter, out on the high summits, looking at conditions underfoot, take some weather observations, and they are fed back to the Met Office to help validate their specialist mountain forecasts. We take photos, we write a blog, we tweet about the conditions, we use lots of different mediums to try and get that information out there. Secondary, we're very visual. We're all fully logoed up. We're very obvious as we wander around the hills. So again, we are a resource for people. We're very happy to chat to people, regularly redirect people who are temporarily misplaced themselves or are up here without a map. So we're certainly not mountain rescue or the mountain police or anything, but we're very happy to chat to people, give advice.
This looks to me like a piece of volcaniclastic sandstone, which is sandstone that's been formed as part of a volcanic eruption. So loads of sand and dust have been spewed into the air as part of the eruption and then settled down, which is what forms these layers here. Now this type of rock, it's not usually found down here. This is actually something that's up at the summit. So this is obviously broken off and then collapsed down the face and landed here. So we're just having a little poke around up on the east face of Helvellyn, and we've come across these really, really lovely downy willows. And these are proper mountainside trees, right? And they're really adapted to surviving in these really tough environments. But they're not doing very well in the UK anymore. And so there's like a planting scheme that's being set up by the John Muir Trust to try and get them to re-establish. So it's really cool to see them doing well up here. This is also exactly the kind of place that makes for really good winter climbing. Here up on the east face of Helvellyn, there's this cool little box, which is actually like a weather station that's used for monitoring soil conditions. The point of it is so you know when conditions are right for winter climbing. Because if the turf isn't frozen, then when you go in with your axes and crampons, you're ripping it all out, which isn't great, particularly here, because there are loads of really neat little Arctic alpine plants here that are only able to survive on these exposed faces. This beautiful purple flower is the Purple Mountain saxifrage. This is one of the true Arctic alpines. So it typically has a high altitude and like circumpolar, so around the poles distribution. But you still find it in places like this on the east face of Helvellyn. Those glaciers that formed all of this landscape, as they retreated as the earth warmed, the very edges of them were followed by kind of all of these plants that would normally have been kind of just at the periphery of this glacier. So slowly moving further and further north. For most of the country, they disappeared because the conditions weren't right for them anymore. But every now and again, in these really harsh environments, you still see some of them holding on, like relics of that last glacial period. And how long they'll stay on here with the changing climate, don't know. But they're here now, and they're really beautiful. We're on Striding Edge, and it's all made out of this stuff, which is a tuff. So this is a ash fall from this ancient volcano. And as that ash fell out of the sky, it kind of melded together to form this really hard rock that makes up the whole of the ridge. It's so tough that, like, even though you had glaciers coming through here, they managed to survive. And that's why you have these sort of big ridges. The more resilient bits of rock avoided being carved out by the glaciers. And they're even managing to survive the hundreds of thousands of people walking over them, but you can still see it's gotten pretty polished. Everything that we see in the Lake District is this interaction of these hundreds of millions of years worth of history, from the ancient volcanicity through to this uplift period, and then the final sculpting of it by the glaciers. And it's an incredible landscape to move through, like whether you're walking or running or climbing. One of the best places that England has to offer, I think.